Hey guys, welcome back. And in this video, we'll be setting up our project. Remember, you clone the starter branch from the GitHub repository. The link is in the description. After you clone the starter branch, you go into the directory and you run the yarn install command, or you run npm install, depending on your package manager of your choice. And when you've done that, you then run yarn dev, or if you're using npm, you run npm dev. And once you do that, you can see it says it starts up the server or your project and your localhost. And in my case, it's on localhost 3000, and I will be there. And as you can see, it says welcome to Rearranger. So in this video, we're going to be setting up Mantine, NextAuth, and RapidAPI to get started with our project. So Mantine is a fully featured React component library, which enables you to build fully functional, accessible web applications faster than ever. And it includes over 100 customizable components and over 40 hooks to cover you in any situation. Let's have a demo of how the components look like. So, example, for input, we have the text input. We do have a password input. So the classic password input where you can type in your password and you have this eye icon that enables you to hide your inputs. We have a color input. So if you have an application where you want your user to pick a color to customize, you can use Mantine UI to provide such a component instead of building it out yourself. We have native select. We have a custom auto select, so you can select more than 3 options, as you can see. And it also has like a color scheme, and you can also customize components, as you can see. Mantine is a pretty awesome UI library, and I recommend you check it out. So in this project, this is the UI library we'll be using. And then we have NextAuth. NextAuth is a authentication library for Next.js. It's open source, it's full stack, and you own your data according to them. But from personal experience, they are one of the best, and it's easy to really get started with authentication with them. You can easily bake in authentication features into your Next.js application with NextAuth. And they're rebranding to auth.js.dev, which you can see they displayed up there that NextAuth is becoming auth.js, where they're creating authentication for the web. So yeah, you should check them out. And we have RapidAPI. One thing about RapidAPI is it provides is a hub that provides a lot of APIs for you to consume and access. So we'll be using the Flixster API to fetch your movie data, and I recommend you use them if you're looking for ideas on like a project where you would need APIs to consume their data, maybe for sports or whatnot. RapidAPI is the platform for you. So back to our project, we will be looking at how to set up Mantine for UI components. We'll look at how to set it up in our project. Then when we are done, we look at how to implement authentication using NextAuth and get registering our project on RapidAPI. Let's get started. So let's click on get started, and we'll be looking at the Next.js guide here. See, using Next.js, and it's pretty straightforward. You just pick the important packages that you'll be needing, and you need to run the yarn or npm install command for them. But remember, in our situation here, we have everything baked in already. So all we have to do, we don't have to install anymore. We've installed them already since we're using the starter branch. So we're gonna do is just to bake it into our application. So in here it says all you have to do is to wrap your root components with a Mantine provider, and you have to pass in the props of with global styles and with normalized CSS. So yeah, we're gonna do just that immediately. So we're gonna head here and we're gonna go to our pages directory, and this is our root component. In Next.js, the root component is gonna be an underscore app.js. So we're gonna wrap these components, as you can see, with Mantine provider. So let's do that immediately. We're gonna wrap these in parentheses. If you're familiar with React, you need to do that if you have more than one component. So we're gonna run Mantine provider. As you can see here, I have the import prompt for that, and I'm gonna cut this one here and paste it here. So as you can see now, we have Mantine provider already. I have to pass in the props. So we have with We have with global styles, and we have with normalized CSS. And now we have that. So now let's confirm if your application is now wrapped with Mantine. So we're gonna go to our project here, and as you can see, the font has changed. So let's just to be very sure, we're gonna import a button. So let's go to here, and we're gonna search for the button components. So I'm gonna search for button, so you can see how to implement a button component on our project. And if you here, you can see it's very simple. You just import the button and you place in the text of your button within the open and closing tags of button. So let's do that just to test it, right? So I'm gonna move here and I'm gonna go to our index page. Now the index page is the home page for your application. Always remember that index is like the home page for your application. So I'm gonna click on index here, and you can see you have welcome to Rearranger. So we'll just clear that for now, and we'll clear that for now, and just import our button components. Okay, so let's do that. I'm gonna highlight it here, and I'm gonna import our button components from Mantine UI, and I'm gonna just say hello. I'm gonna save it. Now we've imported our button and we've put in hello. And if we go back to a project, you can see we have this nice looking button down here which says hello. So that's all we need to do. So we now know that Mantine UI has been embedded into our projects. So for the meantime, I'm gonna just type in welcome to Rearranger. Welcome to Rearranger. So yeah, we're back here. So we've baked in Mantine. The next thing right now is to implement authentication, like just set it up for authentication. So with NextAuth is pretty easy to get started with it. As usual, you install it, and then you after installing the package, which we've done in our case, since you're using the starter files, all you have to do is you create a folder under your API folder and create a file called NextAuth.js, and then you create an object of auth options, and you pass in the provider of the authentication provider that you want to use, and yeah, and we're good to go. So let's get straight into it. So remember, to get started after installing, you create a file called .NextAuth wrapped in square brackets under the authentication folder, under the API folder, under your pages folder. So let's do that. So we're gonna go to pages here, and remember we have our API here, right? And we're gonna create another folder called auth. So we're gonna say auth. And under auth, we're gonna create that file, and we have our square brackets .next auth.js. And yeah, we're good to go. We have our file which has been created. The next thing right now is to create our auth options according to the documentation here. You create your auth options object, and then you pass in your next auth, and then you pass in the auth option as the argument. So let's get straight into it. So we're gonna say const auth options. It's gonna be an object, as you can see here, and we have important things here. We need to pass in the provider. So we have a provider key. We have a provider. And providers rather, and providers is going to be an array of the providers that you want users to authenticate or create an account with. So for authentication, we could have used the classic email and password, but security wise and just make it head with our project, it's recommended that you use a third-party authentication provider. And in this case, we're using GitHub. So after creating our providers array, we're we're gonna pass in the GitHub provider. Okay, so I'm gonna type in GitHub provider, and we can't have access to that yet. We have to import that, but we'll do that soon. And it's gonna have another object that has client ID, and for now we're just gonna pass in null, and we're gonna have client secrets, and again we're gonna pass in null. Remember, we're just setting up the project for now, and now we have an array of. For now, we only want you just to sign in with GitHub. Then we're gonna create a callback, another callback key, and we need that for the data that's going to be returned after authenticating a user. So we're going to be an object, and callback going to have a key of session, and it's going to be an async function, and in here we're going to have session, and we're going to have user. Okay, and we're going to return easy with 3 for the structuring. So we're going to take session again. We're going to be returning session with a callback, and we're also going to return a user object that will contain the data of that user, as you can see. And we're good to go with our auth options. And most importantly, we're going to export default next auth. Now to import NextAuth, and we're going to import it from NextAuth/next. And now we're going to pass in the auth options that we have provided here. So we're going to type in auth options, and we're good to go. We've already implemented, or we've already set up authentication in our NextJS application, but not yet. We're just setting the project up. So in the next video, we're going to look at how to implement actual authentication in our application. Remember, we're just setting up our project. So now we're done with NextAuth. We're going to look at RapidAPI. So RapidAPI, like I've previously mentioned, is an API hub that hosts a lot of APIs. You can consume APIs, also you can build your own API and host it right here, and you can also manage APIs. So it's really straightforward because you see what I mean by that. So we're gonna create an account. I'm gonna go to sign up, and I'm gonna create an account, and I'm using GitHub. I'll be signing with GitHub, and I have to authorize GitHub. I have to authorize RapidAPI on my GitHub. So now that I've authorized it, I should be able to create an account right now. And yeah, so I've created my account, and we're gonna provide my name. So in this case, we're gonna say Paris learning coding experience. I'm gonna pick up maybe 3 to 5 or 5+. And how do you plan to use it? We're gonna use it for our personal project, and I will not collaborate with our team yet. So I'll check this, and I'll go today. We're gonna say use a specific API, and we're gonna submit this. And now that we're authenticated, we could see that we have been welcomed to the RapidAPI hub. Like I've said, RapidAPI is a hub of accessing a bunch of APIs to use. Not only can you access them, you can also create your own APIs and release them to the public for people to consume. So let's say you want to build an application, and it has lots of APIs under different categories. We have data, we have finance, we have travel, we have sports, we have entertainment, and location, science, and whatnot. So let's assume we want to create a project centered around food. You don't have to think or rack your brain about what API do I consume. You just come to RapidAPI and you search through the category to look for, and it provides you with a plethora of APIs displaying lots of data, and you can find interesting ones of your choice. So in our case here, we are building a movie management app, so we need an API that provides us with accurate movie data. So in our case, we're using the Flexstar API. So I'm just going to move in here and search for Flexstar. And as you can see here, we have Flexstar API. And our API has loaded. We have Flexstar by API Dojo, and it was last updated 7 months ago, and has a popularity of 9.5 over 10, a latency of 1,537 milliseconds, and a service level of 100%. So these are the statistics you need to be you need to take note of when you want to consume an API from RapidAPI. And you can see if you're familiar with API tools like Postman or Insomnia, this looks very similar, but this one is well documented. We have a section for endpoints here because we have the search endpoints, reviews endpoints. We have a section for movies, we have a section for theaters. We also have this column here which gives you much more detail on how to consume a particular endpoint. And we have this nice last section with about the code snippets where you could run actual code depending on the library that you're using to consume. So we're going to get started with it right now. So how do we start consuming an API that we are accessing through RapidAPI? It's pretty simple. So you select the first of all, you have to subscribe to the API, and every API has its pricing plan. So in our case here, Flexstar is freemium, and which means it's free but has other premium packages. We're gonna go to pricing, and you can see here we have Basic, Pro, Ultra, and Mega. Basic is free, and you can make a maximum of 500 requests per month, and the rate limit is 5 requests per second. Same goes for Pro. Which is good for $10 per month. We have 10,000 requests per month and 5 requests per second. And if you cross the 10,000 limit, it's gonna bill you 0.002 cents for each request you make. So we'll be making use of the basic plan because for our project this seems sufficient. 500 requests per month is actually really sufficient. So we're gonna go back to endpoint, and now we're gonna look at how to consume the API in our own project. Okay, so we're gonna give it some time to load. And yeah, so we're going to be using the inbuilt JavaScript fetch library. So we're going to click here, and I'm going to go to JavaScript. I'm going to click on fetch. Like you can see here, it has these options objects which we're going to be using to get started with consuming APIs. But let's test out how RapidAPI works. So let's say we want to search for a movie, for example. So we're going to click on the search endpoints, and I'm going to scroll down here. You can see, let's type in Dune as our input or search term. As you see here, the fetch URL has been updated. You can see it has this query parameter here saying Dune. I have the zip code, so we don't need to input any zip code in our case. Just click zoom and radius. If we check back here, you can see we have very simple request query as the object and Dune as the search term. Now that we've filled in the required parameters, we're gonna click on test endpoint, and as you can see, it returns data and search with 3 keys: movies, people, and theaters. So movies now is returning an array of 10 objects. As you can see, it's returning the EMS ID, the EMS version ID, the name of the movie, the poster image, and the tomato rating. So yeah, so you can see you can test the API or consume the API right inside the RapidAPI hub. So one of the major advantages, you don't have to go through the long process of integrating into your application and trying to test and run into errors. You can do everything right in RapidAPI. These are one of the multiple advantages of using this API hub. Now we're gonna look at how we're gonna integrate how we're gonna start consuming this API right from our own project. So we're gonna copy these options objects here. I'm gonna go back to a project. So we're gonna create a folder, right? We're gonna create a folder called lib, and another folder here called requests. So requests, and in that folder we're gonna create an index.js file. Index.js, and we're just gonna paste in that object right there. And now we're going to look at the concept of environment variables, because we can't expose the API key and the host to everyone, because people with malicious intent can steal our API key and abuse it and cross our limits and maybe run into some heavy bills. So we're going to look at this concept in Next.js called code environment variables. And here it says Next.js comes with built-in support for environment variables, which allows you to expose environment variables to the browser and use env.local to load environment variables. So environment variables is actually necessary to consume sensitive data, but in a way where it's not exposed to the public or to your actual user. So how do you use environment variables? We're just gonna create a .env file. Next.js recommends using an env.local, but we're using an env file because we'll also be using Prisma. Prisma does not recognize an env.local file. It's recognizes an env file. So and Next.js also recognizes an env file by default. So we're gonna use an env file instead. So we're gonna create a file here, and we're gonna say .env. Hit enter. So if you remember, in our repository, we were also asked to create an env file and set up the following environment variables. So we're just gonna copy this right here and go to our env file and paste it in. So we have a RapidAPI key, RapidAPI host, database URL, GitHub ID, GitHub secrets. If you remember, go to NextAuth, where we passed in the null values to client ID and client secrets. We're later going to load them from this environment variable. So now we're going to pass, put in the API keys here. So we're going to copy this, cut it out, and move it to our environment variable. And I'll do the same for the host, and paste it in here and save. And we're gonna go back here, and now how do we load environment variables? Now after masking or hiding our sensitive data, and not to worry, this is not sensitive because it wouldn't be deployed in my own case. So make sure you don't expose your own API keys to the public. So how do I load these data into our project? So you go back here and you append those variables with a process.env. So I'm gonna say process dot env dot that variable. So in our case here, it's a RapidAPI key. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it in here. So yeah, we've loaded. That's how to load your environment variable. So behind the host, we have RapidAPI host. Just copy it and head back here. And in our RapidAPI host here, we're just gonna say process dot env dot RapidAPI host, and we are actually good to go. So let's take a quick recap. We've set up Mantine, we've set up authentication, and we've seen how to the basics of searching for an API of your choice on RapidAPI, the metrics to look out for, and how to test them, how to search through endpoints, how to fill them in there and test them on the fly. And yeah, in our next video, we're going to be looking at how to actually implement authentication. See you in the next video.